Good morning. So, yet another live stream, and I hope today you for once will not have issues. But who knows? Who knows? I hope you can hear me well. I hope you can see me well. I hope I'm moving fast and fluid, and I hope I'm in focus. Oh, there's still some stuff lying around here. So this time, I decided to just have everything in focus instead of nothing. So let's see how that goes. And how many comments there will be about the background. Now I can already can't see the live chat. Why not? Why not? What's wrong, YouTube? One chat. There we are. Okay. Are we possibly having summertime change confusions? Good question. No, it was just the usual technical issues. And I don't know why it's happening. So every now and then, and live stream, what's getting from the camera into the stream is not fluid, not smooth. And same today. So I tried to fix that. Yeah, here they came, but I hope they're already gone. And now about the topic of today. I went to Tokyo again for the first time this year, and it was nice. It was nice. So I went on Thursday to go to the office, but I actually went because I had an appointment at the German embassy on Friday, yesterday. No, a day before yesterday in the morning. And yeah, it was fantastic because I had just the perfect timing for the cherry blossom. Maybe I was like half a day delayed or so for the perfect blossom. So that was pretty nice. Also got to meet two friends. And yeah, then took a couple of videos, which I will release to Patreon pretty soon, hopefully, about the cherry blossom. And yeah, explain a little bit about the area because the German embassy is in Hiro, which is close to Roppongi, where I worked. So we took a little stroll in the video from my upper hotel, a business hotel, very cheap, to Hiro, to Roppongi, and looked at cherry blossoms. It was pretty nice, and that will be out on Patreon hopefully soon. And other than that, yeah, I totally don't miss Tokyo when it comes to the people, to the tension, if you know what I mean. So lots of people there, and everybody's of course a little stressed, and because they have to go to work, and there are other people, and it's a little bit, not too much space, and then of course this coronavirus and so on. But some people just seem to not care. So one guy was on the train, and he just took his mask off to drink alcohol. Some salaryman. I mean, he was not super close to other people. He was standing at the entrance of the door, and there was nobody else for like maybe 1.5 meters or so. But still, I mean, come on, is it really that urgent? But who knows? Yeah, he did that. So he always took his mask off, drank, and then when people would board the train, he would put it back on. So that happened. And then, so we walked from Hiro to Roppongi, Tokyo Midtown. That's a big skyscraper, the tallest in Roppongi. And it has a park with a lot of cherry trees. And there were so many families having their hanami. So small kids playing, depends. Most of them have masks, not all of them. Of course, sometimes the nose sticks out and so on. And then, yeah, lots of families just being out there and enjoying. Some of the benches were closed. So during Hanami, they are not open. But then next to it, there's like a sit-outside restaurant where there, of course, are seats and so on. And then there's an area which has a small man-made river, stream, and a pond. And there are also seats. And you can also sit there just fine. So it's kind of, I don't know. Well, Tokyo people are also a bit snobbish. My Hokkaido love shining through. Yeah, maybe. I think also Osaka people would say that. Yeah, so I don't know, snobbish. I think that they're just a little bit too stressed maybe about things. And I mean, thinking about it also. So even when we lived in the area, we never ever would have even considered buying a property there, for example, like an apartment or so, because it's so expensive and you get so little for that. And what I personally really don't like is being in, so it's called mansion there, a condo. And the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom is somebody else. So I really feel like claustrophobic if that and in the beginning it wasn't that bad, but in the end, especially when you can't really go out and you have the kids, like 2 kids around you all the time, and you still work from home as well, it's like, it was stressful. So I'm really happy we moved here, but I also really enjoyed going to Tokyo this time, especially because I took Friday off, so I had a little bit more time. I went to see, as I said, I saw one friend on Friday, and I went to a shop I didn't go to for over a year or so, and caught up with them. They're a little bit struggling, obviously. And I also went to a German bakery, not my favorite German bakery, but still a good one. And I prepared some bread here. So that was actually all pretty nice. Still, don't necessarily need to go there every day or even every week, I think. And that kind of concludes the topic. So there will be something on Patreon coming out soon. I may do a little small Hanami Sakura cherry blossom compilation in the upcoming video, which hopefully will be soon. And then maybe when it's a little bit more, when the flowers are a little bit more open here, then I will take another video, but not sure. So a couple of them are open here, but they're like not the big fluffy ones, if you know what I mean. Usually it's like this clouds of sakura, but they're not the ones. They're a little smaller and so on. And also, if you remember, I made this video about the old Japanese tombs, kofun, and there's one which has 40 sakura cherry blossom trees, trees on top of them, and they are also not open yet. So I think, who was that? Somebody requested frequently to take video of that, and I will. And that concludes the topic of today, I think. So we can go into the free mode as usual, and go totally off topic. Is it legal to drink on trains? It's illegal here. It's legal, yes. So you can drink outside on the street, you can drink in trains, and people do that. Probably, I would say alcohol is probably the most common beverage on trains, on average, because in the morning people go to work, they don't drink, and also it's so packed, so they don't want to annoy people. And in the evening, when they go back after the nomikai, they drink with their colleagues, then they don't care. Then they just drink, or some are just like stressed out from work or so and drink and all that. Speaking of drinking, today for my breakfast I have a smoothie without sugar, in case you're wondering. It's a banana smoothie and also contains things like asparagus and so on, but tastes nice. And accompanying that is, of course, banana smoothie, a banana. Fantastic. They are damaged by being too many people in too little space. Yeah, so talking about Tokyo. Yeah. I mean, I don't know damaged, but I think it's definitely the stress level goes up. Even though I must say they are handling it pretty well in other areas like Germany or so. For example, in the morning, if the train gets packed and people are they go on the train and they don't care anymore. So they just stand in the entrance, more or less. So there's a lot of people collecting around the entrance and they don't go through. And also the seat layout in Munich is not the greatest in the trains. And then people already get annoyed and they walk in or start even pushing and so on. And that's kind of a rather big exception in Tokyo. For one, people go in because that's some of the better places. And two, people usually don't loudly complain. It happens, but not too frequently. My brother-in-law lived in Tokyo, worked in Tokyo for a year. He said that Tokyo people were somewhat cold, and he's from Okinawa. Yeah, I can understand. I mean, I don't know Okinawan people, and I've never been there. But yeah, Tokyo, it's definitely, I can see that. It's hard to get warm people or so. I feel, at least in the areas I used to be. Maybe the more residential areas, I found it was okay. Sometimes there always was somebody and so on, but like in the really city, in the 23 wards, it was hard, I guess. But then again, a lot of people, a lot of changing customers and so on. For example, if you talk to somebody in a store, then yeah. I'm so glad I didn't miss your stream. I'm so glad you're here, Jacob. And by the way, John, also sorry for not telling you this time about the stream, but you're still here, so I'm glad you could make it. A German bakery is famous in Tokyo and Sapporo. All bakeries are named something Denmark or carry a Danish flag somewhere in the branding. I think my feeling is in Tokyo, the most famous country when it comes to bread is France. So a lot of French bakeries, and yeah, German bakeries no, because so let me show you. So I have a German bread here. It has cheese on top, and it looks on the non-cheese side. It looks like this. A lot of grains in it, very dark and maybe heavy. And in Japan, usually in Japan, bread is more fuwa, so soft, fluffy, and that means this kind of heavy bread maybe isn't the most suited for many people. And but for me it is, of course, for me. So I'm craving that. Here in this city, Nagano City, there is none. There is in Nagano Prefecture, I know one bakery, which is in Matsumoto, which is maybe 1 hour by train from here. And then I don't know actually how to get to the bakery. It's kind of far from the station. So that's that. I've never been there. So when I then go to Tokyo, I also go to get the German style bread, if I can. And is there anything else to say? Yeah, also I find that often if I see some kind of bread, like the small loafy things, then they have something inside. Tendency is, or they are like butter bread or something. So it's not just plain in Japan, usually, I feel. Can foreigners also get promotion in their job field and become a sensei? So, two questions here. Can they get a promotion? Yes. I mean, I did. And I'm a foreigner in Japan, so I think so. As for becoming a sensei, so sensei means the person who's born earlier, which usually refers to teachers or doctors and so on. So that means if you, for example, come here to be an English teacher, you're already a sensei. Or if you at some point teach something, martial arts or any skill, then you're also a sensei. And or if you become a doctor, that may take a little longer, then you're also a sensei. So yes, you can become both. The question probably is there like a glass ceiling or so, some point where beyond which you cannot progress? And I would say yes, if you don't invest in your Japanese, then certainly at some point, I mean, even if it's an international company, at some point you have to interact with people that don't speak a great deal of English because it's in Japan. So if you are like getting really high, like C-level, executive level, then at some point when you interact with, other parties, you need to have a really good command of Japanese. And if that's not the case, that's your glass ceiling. That being said, probably for many people, there's a glass ceiling anywhere. So yeah, I don't know if it's hard or not, because I also must say, I've never been employed in Germany. I had my own company. I was self-employed. So it's always a little hard for me to compare. Of course, from my friends and so on, I can compare. And at least for me, I get promoted more frequently than they do, but they're also in another field. They're not in IT. You want to make a unique video not covered by anyone else? Explain the important difference of Honne versus Tatemai. Yeah. Well, yes, that's true. I think there's a lot to learn there. Okay, now I'm more laid back and tend to not be so strict as at time management. I see. Yeah, I can imagine being more laid back if you're on an island. I mean, Japan. Okay, I'm also on an island, but with more sea and beach. And also, I feel like if it's really hot and so on, I mean, how could you even be more strict and so on and rigorous with your schedule and all that? Except if you really like have air conditions anywhere, everywhere. At least it's my feeling. Like when I go to a country that's significantly more hot than what I'm used to. For example, in Europe, when I went to Greece or so, it's like, oh my God, especially outside and so on. And it's super nice. And the culture, the people and so on, especially if you have a friend and then you go together, they show you around, it's so nice. But also, it's so exhausting. Yes. What has Jacob missed because he hasn't been keeping up with my channel? No, Jacob got a lot of changes that happened a while, but I finally found time with my favorite streamer and YouTuber. Oh, thank you so much. And I hope it will have been good changes. I think you probably haven't missed so much. So it's been a pretty long while, 6 weeks or so since the last video. So probably you will have no hard time catching up. I did do a couple of live streams recently, maybe once a week or so on average. And then, yeah, so next video should come soon. But I also said that last week. But most likely today, after this, I will work quite some time on it. So maybe. And then other than that, yeah, not so much probably. So thank you for coming back. At least you foreigners can also be senpai. Yes, it can be senpai. And that's a pretty automatic thing. For example, you join a company, then somebody joins after you, you're the senpai. So that's that. Job done. Okay. What DSLR are you using right now in this video? You have top-notch quality. Thank you, Zach. I'm using the GH5 with what kind of lens? It is I have a speed booster so that I can mount any lens. And I forgot the company's name. It's not written anywhere, I think. It's not like the standard. It's not a Panasonic or Canon lens, but it's forgot. Tokina or something. It's 11 to 20 f2.0. Yes, and thank you for the for the compliment about the quality. For once, I took care about checking the audio and being in focus before I started the stream. Yes, so that's good. Excellent, Jacob. Yeah, it should not take you too long to catch up if you want to, depending on how long it's been, of course. How long did it take you to learn English? Your level is very good. Thank you, MT Watley. Watley? It's hard to say. So I started in school in the 5th grade, which is when I was 10. And then school education until 10th grade was good, I think. And I learned some English. Then 11, 12 was not really beneficial. And then university started and I took 2 courses for business English, 2 semesters, which was also so-so. So I always was kind of in the upper 10% or so of the class, but still I didn't feel confident and so on. And as you can hear, also the accent is still obviously there. So yeah, so I was kind of okay, I guess, but I didn't have enough exposure. But I studied IT, and eventually in IT, most likely you will have to do things in English, read a lot, at least documentation and so on. And that's what also happened to me. So then I got my first really big project, and the project manager on the client side was American, So the team language was English, and that's how I got pretty confident, maybe too confident even. So, and that's back then. I think I even peaked because everyday English with at least one native. So back then I think I peaked, and now it's kind of deteriorating a little bit, but I still speak a great deal at work. However, since the average English level is not as high as in a native country, of course, it's kind of, you lower your quality output, kind of, as in to make it easy, and with that, of course, the level drops. So that's that. So essentially, I think I'm about really learning 6 years in school, and then a couple of years later, immersion for 3-4 years, and then maybe maintain since then, kind of. ありがとうございます。頑張ってくださいませ。Very polite, thank you. Lucky nya. Waiting for my anamorphic lenses to arrive. Wow. Can't wait to try how it will affect shooting style. I see. I never tried anamorphic lenses. But this camera also can do like anamorphic. And I can't stop noticing, but you kind of look like Jim from The Office. Now I have to look. I've never watched The Office, I think. I only know Ricky Gervais always complains about the American version. Let me try that. Let me search for Jim from The Office. Jim The Office. Oh, this guy. I see. I've seen it in memes. I don't know. Thank you, maybe. Do you read manga? Do you do push-ups? I read manga not very frequently. So yeah, so my wife has all the volumes of Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, for example, and I also wanted to read that, but I haven't started. I think she gave it to her sister so that she can read it and hasn't gotten it back or so. Time constraints. And push-ups, yeah. So I work out with an app, and whenever it tells me to do push-ups, I do that. Yeah. So I think I could do much more when I was younger, though. Yeah. He doesn't spend enough energy on pranks to be Jim, but I can see the similarity. Now you mentioned it. I see. I knew it wasn't just me, says Jacob. Hey, Harper, Void HV Harper. Harper. Okay. Hi. How is your health now? Yeah, currently good. So I'm not feeling affected right now. Yeah. So that's that. What's your favorite Japanese movie? I think there are two. One is Seven Samurai, which is so influential, for its time. When was it? 50s or so when it was made. And it's very epic. And also, even when I was younger, I used to watch the Magnificent Seven with my dad. And then which is kind of a copy of the Seven Samurai. So that was interesting. I didn't particularly like the Magnificent Seven, but I did. It was the best on TV back then because we had like only 5 programs or so in our house. So I watched that, and I liked the movie a lot. And also, one of the guys, the main character, the leader, he reminds me of my Aikido teacher. So that's also there. And then the other one, probably I would have to say, what's that? Spirited Away. Sento Chihiro no Kamikakushi. Maybe. It's because it's like just outstandingly good. It's unbelievable. But it was not the first Ghibli, was it? I don't remember actually which was the first Ghibli movie I watched. The last one of Hayao Miyazaki. That was the first one I watched. And I was astonished by the quality, because until then I thought manga is always like the TV shows, like, classics, One Piece, Dragon Ball and so on, or Dragon Ball Z, that drag itself so long and the animation is really limited. Like, the only thing that moves is the mouth when they say something and so on. But then Ghibli quality was amazing. I was blown away. So I would say these two, Seven Samurai and Spirited Away. Hi from Brazil. Hey, Isabella. Good to have you here. Are Japanese people actually short? Since according to my medical book, I should be just below 6'4". Okay. So I think the average height here is around 170-ish for males. So it's short. So in Germany it would be 180, I think. So I'm just average in German, but here I'm tall. So I think so. But its tendency is, of course, upwards. Taller. Where should I first go when I go to Japan, unless your video of that isn't outdated? Yeah. First going when you go to Japan. So you mean, so when it's the first time in Japan? I think most likely will arrive in Tokyo. And I made a video about that. Then Corona happened. Then I watched the material back after some time, because I didn't want to publish immediately, obviously. Now I watched the material again, and I thought, like, no, that's too bad. I have to do it again. So I have the plan in my head, and here's the plan. You arrive in Tokyo. That means, so you're super jet lagged. You arrive in Tokyo. That means, because you're jet lagged, depending on where you're from, of course. But assuming you would come from west of Japan, so Europe and so on, let's say. So if you're from Germany, for example, now you would have 7 hours of time difference. Oh my, audio is on. That means you're pretty jet lagged when you come here. So you don't have too much of your first day, probably, because you're exhausted. So try to stay awake until the night. That's a hard one, maybe. Then sleep somewhere cheap, close to Ueno, maybe Nippuri Station. There are a lot of cheap hotels, because you probably don't enjoy it so much anyway. And then the next day, the big job again is not to sleep because of your jet lag, and go out of Tokyo. Maybe Kyoto or Osaka or somewhere. So a little bit more country. And then check in anywhere in Kyoto. So there are popular districts like Gion or so on, which may be a little bit more pricey. I stayed there. So I know that because that's what I did essentially when I moved here with a couple of friends. So I came here, I was here for 4 days, then they came, and then we did a round trip. And it was pretty great. That's why I'm telling you now. So we stayed we went to Osaka first, which is not necessarily what did we? Did we? Wait a second. I'm not sure, actually. I think maybe we didn't even, did we? 1 second. I don't remember completely, but we did go to the north of Kyoto, still in Kyoto Prefecture, to a place, it's kind of in the mountains. It's cooler, so that's great in summer especially. It was July, very hot and humid, and it was fantastic. We would have loved, in hindsight, we should have stayed another night, so we just stayed 1 night. Very relaxing, onsen and so on, so it's perfect, like, to get the rest of the jet lag out of you. Because if you don't sleep on the first day, as I said in this very old video I made some time ago, then jet lag should be kind of okay after that, if you don't fall asleep on the train or so. And then, you stay there, you relax, and then you go back to the city, maybe Kyoto or Osaka, and enjoy that. Depending on the time of the year, it may be hot, it may be not, it may be sakura season maybe. And then after that, so Osaka, like a bigger city, which is kind of different of Tokyo and Kyoto. And after that, you go to the Sea of Japan side, to Kanazawa. You can do that by train. and enjoy that. It's like also some people I think call it Little Kyoto or so. So it also has a lot to offer. Also has a fish market with lots. I mean, compared to Tokyo, no foreigners or something or visitors at all. Has one of Japan's most scenic gardens, top 3. Has a castle remainders. Has a samurai district, so all the buildings and so on. And it's just a lovely area. There is a hotel I can even recommend. What was it called? Takte. So Takite. Which is not super central, but very nice. Very nice. So I love that hotel. Kind of pricey though, but still, as I said, very nice. There's also a video about it on my channel. It's not the best one, I think. I didn't do it justice actually, but it's great. It's great. And yeah, stay there or somewhere else, wherever you mind. We stayed at the Hotel Nikko, I think, which is close to the station. Also not too bad and also not too pricey. And then from there, of course, you should go to Nagano. So it's like you went from Tokyo to Kyoto, Osaka, then you go up to Kanazawa, and then you go to Nagano again. Stay there, maybe go to the countryside. There will be a video coming up about an ryokan, a Japanese hotel, not too far from here, which would be a nice place to stay. And then from there, you go to Tokyo again and enjoy the big city. This, of course, depends also. This now is like a 10 to 14 day itinerary. Yeah, so that's what I would recommend and do. But of course, you can also go a little bit more touristy even and go like to Hiroshima and so on. This like probably Tokyo, Kyoto, Hiroshima would be the 3 big tourist destinations for the first time. And this is kind of this covers like the big city, Kyoto and so on, then a little bit more off the beaten path, and then Nagano and countryside. And then again, you get like, in the end, you get the full blast of Tokyo. Yes. All right. Where were we? Are you a fan of David Lee Roth? I believe he got interested in Aikido. I don't know him. So let me Google him. David Lee Roth. I see. Yeah, I will check him later. Thank you. Since no one else is mentioning it, I like the effort with the colored lights in the background, Johannes. Thank you. Yeah, it's just so this one here. It's just my usual YouTube background, which I use when I talk. Recently, not so much, but it's still here. So I just plug in the lights, switch them on. That's it. And then this light here. This one, yeah, I have to remember to put there. But still, despite the effort, I did not usually here's this here over there, right here. Here's usually a fan, which I forgot because it's in the morning, and here also I did not clean this up. Too bad. Kind of takes the aesthetic away. Guten Morgen. Yes, you had that. Do you love Japanese Owarai? Do you know Matsumoto and Hamada? Lived in Japan for 3 years. Now I'm back in Russia. Thank you for the chance to interact with you. No, I mean, I know. I don't know Matsumoto and Hamada. And I also I don't watch TV almost. And yeah, thank you for being here and interacting with me. Without you, it wouldn't work. You're correct. Lighting is super cool. Thank you, Zach. Thank you. The secret to flying to Japan is timing the 10-hour flight so you land in the morning because you sleep on the plane and thus avoid jet lag. Yes, maybe. I don't know. Because, for example, from where I'm going, there's always one flight a day. So it's like, you just take that. If it's a direct flight. If you go like through Beijing or so, then you have different options. But if you want to go fast and comfortable, then that's it. You have your one time of the day. I forgot when it arrives. I think it's kind of evening-ish, 7 p.m. or so. I did learn a little bit about Japan's culture a couple of years ago, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe according to their beliefs, Japan was a gift from God for goddess to show his love for her. Oh, interesting. I don't know actually. I don't know. Maybe sounds plausible. So Shintoism, mythology, maybe. So sorry, I can't answer. And I think he made it with his paint stick. Oh, beautiful. He was in the 80s rock band Van Halen. I see. I recently watched a video where he had a second home in Tokyo and was an avid practitioner of Aikido. I see. Interesting. Yeah, if so, then maybe I run into him one day, depending on his style. Do you have morning rituals, and do you plan to buy land in Japan? Yes, I do have morning rituals, kind of, as laid out in my previous video. However, it's not always exactly in the morning. So definitely morning ritual is making breakfast. So that's the only fixed thing. But it's not like super hard habit driven or so. As I mentioned, I work out 4 times a week, which may happen in the morning or whenever there's time. And what else do I do? Yeah, it depends kind of. I do breathing exercises maybe in the morning if I have time again, and so on. But sometimes, like today, I have a live stream coming up, so I just take a quick shower, make some breakfast, and then do the live stream. Or if I have an early meeting or so. Or if I overslept. So it depends. But for me, I find that if the morning routine gets too long, so meditate, exercise, breathing exercise, family time or whatever, or learn Japanese and so on. If that gets too long, and then it's too it gets too much. Then I'm like, no, I don't do that. So I'd rather keep it short and concise than have a big extensive morning routine, you know. And yes, kind of. Do I have anything else to say? I mean, I like building routines and as I mentioned, kind of hinted, I found for me that over time with a lot of with where I fail and where I don't fail is that better make short improvements or small improvements frequently than big improvements once or twice, because it's so daunting, like 2-hour workout or 2-hour learning session or so on. And then you do it like once for a week, and then it's like, yeah, God damn it, I can't do that now. And, you know, delay it until tomorrow. And then that takes up, this pattern establishes itself. So better to do like 15 minutes a day, but do it every day. And then maybe if there's more time, then do that and so on, but not have to force myself to do something super long because it's not realistic. And then one more thing, speaking about building habits and especially language learning and so on, is it needs to be fun. So over the years, I established I can do things because I have to do them, not necessarily because they're fun. Especially if somebody tells me to. So probably at school you also experience that, maybe sometimes, hopefully not, but likely. And or also sometimes if in the beginning when I did Aikido, I was not so sure, but my teacher always came picking me up. So with his car, and then go to the training place. And that established it for me, and then it became fun someday. And it clicked. And then I wanted more and more and more. So these two things, either make it easy and fun, or have somebody driving me until my drive develops. Okay, long answer, sorry. Okay, where was I? Lighting, culture. Is there a real wasabi, or is it super expensive like here in the Azores? Also, is there is sushi better than sushi imported from America? I don't know what wasabi is. Wasabi. So sushi is okay if you go for the cheap one, and it's great if you go for the expensive one. And I don't know from America, but where I'm from, Munich is in the middle of Europe, so there's no sea really close. That means fish is not super fresh, and you can get good sushi, but it's like if you compare price, then Japan is superior. So same price level, Japan is better. But it's not that every sushi in Japan is great, especially if you go to like the cheaper conveyor belt sushi where you get one plate for like 100 yen, which is 90 cents US or so. That's like, it's good for what it is, but it's not exquisite. Do you have a favorite J-vlogger abroad in Japan? Clearly abroad in Japan. Do you give out autographs by any chance by your postmail? You're the first one to ask me that, so I feel humbled and flattered, but no, not yet. So this service is not established yet, because I feel like, why, what? But thank you so much for the kind words. Also, my handwriting is really not pretty. Wasabi, you mean? I see. Real wasabi is so expensive because the conditions are very strict. Yeah, wasabi, pretty. I mean, it's very clear what is really wasabi and what not and what's horseradish, green horseradish when you taste it. Real wasabi, which is very, which is more subtle and a little bit more sweet and so on. But here is a lot of real wasabi, so I guess also there it's just like Wagyu. There's like a low end and a high end. But yeah, usually if you have wasabi, for example, Nagano is very popular for wasabi. I think it has like 60% or so of the wasabi production in Japan, maybe even, because it has the mountains and the climate is just right. So apparently making wasabi is really hard, growing it. And I think but the when you have the wasabi root thing, and then you do like, and it takes forever. So sometimes when you go to a restaurant, for example, here in Nagano, there's Izuraya, it's called, soba restaurant in the mountains. In one of my previous videos about winter in Japan, snowy Japan, something, I went to the mountain with my friend Victor, and there's also, it was not covered, but there's in this area, there's this restaurant, soba restaurant, Izuraya, and they give you to your soba noodles the broth, you dip them in, and also just a root of wasabi and the grinding thing, and then you do like a long time, and then you get a little bit, tiny little bit after 5 minutes or so of wasabi you can use. So it's actually really, like, takes some time and so on. So I appreciate the sushi guys who do that all day. But yeah, also I think outside of Japan, real wasabi is really hard to get. At least in Germany, I think I never had it. So that's that. I think, yeah, never. Fun fact, the Emperor of Japan is the longest unbroken bloodline monarchy in the world, the second longest is Denmark. I didn't know about Denmark, but I did know about Japan. And it's also a definition thing, because there have been like bloodline, right? Maybe it's not bloodline, but royal line or so, it's a heritage line. But yeah, it is. From mythological emperors, first ones, to historical ones. And also, fun fact, most of us, maybe all of us, are living much better than they did a couple of 100 years ago. Real wasabi in Japan is just called wasabi. Yeah, often they say hon wasabi, right? So real wasabi. The green horseradish is a Western thing because we can't produce it ourselves. Yes, but sometimes I'm not sure. Sometimes I think I also had like not horseradish stuff. Is your wife in the IT industry as well? No, she's not. She's a florist. And yeah, she actually studied video making and so on. and she found out through studying that she doesn't like it. So she doesn't want to help me, unfortunately. Or kind of, I got used to it, but she's also not like, you shouldn't do that or so you spend so she's kind of supportive in the sense that she tolerates it. And if I ask her, then she does help me, but usually I don't, because I know it's not what she wants from life. Have you seen the huge hornets there? Only once or so, I think. Actually, when waiting in line for this restaurant in here close to here in the mountain, there was a hornet, and somebody's now tried to kill it. Probably killed it. So that happened. I think that was the only time. But yeah, they're pretty big, I guess. When you say Victor, do you mean Give Me a Break Man? No, I mean Frame of Travel. So he's more popular on Instagram, and he's friends with most of the big J-vloggers, YouTubers in Japan. And yeah, so we've known each other since the end of 2017, and now finally last year, in December, we finally got it done and made a video together. It is, so wait, let me think. Last video was Day in a Life. Before that was, I think before that, 2 videos back, probably. You can watch it. He has a spectacular beard. Mute? Really? Can you hear me? Hello, hello? Which is the bigger danger when living in Tokyo? Typhoon, earthquake, tsunami, or Godzilla? Definitely the last one. Next question. Is there talk about vaccine being mandatory? I don't think so. At least I haven't. It's not. I don't know if there's talk about it. And also, I think the level is like 0.5% or so. At least last week it was. So it's not, the supply is not at the level where there's talking about it being mandatory is makes sense. So, do you love Ofuro onsen? Yes. So, onsen. I mean, Ofuro, kind of okay. Ofuro means bath. So, going to a bathtub. But onsen, hot spring, fantastic. Love it. Especially if it's, I mean, not super hot, but 46 maybe degrees. 50 also okay, but not over. Not to cook. Yeah, but onsen. So also the first time I went to Japan was 12 years ago, and I went to a seminar here, also actually close to here, and there was a ryokan. So here in the mountains. This is actually the ryokan, the hotel I will cover in one of my upcoming videos. And in the in the mountains, they have 2 seasons. Sorry, my voice is breaking, as you can hear. Let's go on anyway. They have two seasons. One is the skiing, winter, and the other is summer, when the gasku, the seminar season. So when the schools come, for example, from Tokyo, or the Aikido clubs and so on, or martial arts clubs, judo and so on, and do seminars there. And that's why they have rentals for snowboards and gear and so on. And they also have a dojo, a training facility, connected to their houses, usually. Some have kyudo, like traditional bow shooting. Archery is the word. So this was one of them. So we were a group, so we had the whole hotel for ourselves. And it's like tatami rooms and so on. So it's kind of traditional, high-class traditional. And great food 3 times a day. Then you train, then you go to the onsen. So you relax in the hot water and so on. And it's fantastic. So I had this experience right from the get-go when I came to Japan. And that's kind of how my love got established. Okay, you can hear. Thank you, Jacob. Do you miss good old Germany? Yes. I mean, yes and no. So I don't miss Germany necessarily. I found so I went to the Germany on Friday, not to the Germany, to the German embassy on Friday, and I found it kind of it's nice. The Germans kind of this like yeah, the good old Germans, as you say. But what I miss most about Germany is not the country, but my family and friends, of course. So if they were here, I would not for a moment consider going back, I think. But maybe I would for holiday, but not, not in the way I'm doing now. I didn't remember. I didn't answer one question about buying property in Japan. Considering it, but not sure yet. But if I do, I hope I can put it into a video, like the whole how to do that, and then of course building a house and the process and all that. Probably like would take a year to make the video, and it would be 40 minutes long. But I guess it would be a great one. At least for me, it would be super interesting to see that. And then one more thing I wanted to say. So about this hotel, Ryokan, I actually wanted to go there on Friday. Yes, 2 days ago, stay overnight and shoot there and interview the owner and so on. However, then Nagano Prefecture recommended if you go to areas where there's a high level of corona infections, such as Tokyo, then you should kind of minimize your contacts for 14 days. And since I went to Tokyo on Thursday and would have gone back on Friday, I contacted the owner of the hotel and asked her what she thinks. And then we said, yeah, okay, let's do it in a couple of weeks. So unfortunately, I couldn't shoot it yet. My wife wants to visit her family in Okinawa, but there's the 14-day quarantine, which makes it impossible. Quarantine, yes, correct. That's all I can say. So if you're not if you're not living here, then it doesn't make sense, probably. Or I mean, if you'd stay for 3 months, yes, like max out your tourist visa. But other than that, have you become addicted to the toilet with bidet function? If yes, how long until it became comfortable? Yes, I mean, addicted, used to. And now when I go back, so usually we go back in winter, or not usually, but sometimes we try to go to Germany for Christmas, which means the toilet seats, which are not heated. Can you believe it? Not heated. So in a civilized world. And they're ceramic, so you sit down and that's the culture shock. Like, oh my God, I'm dying. That's happening. So I've gotten used to it, especially to the heated seat and so on. And also bidet function is just comfortable. It's like it makes things so much easier. Yeah. So for those who don't know, the washlets, the Japanese Western style toilet seats have a lot of features. Some have like play music and so on, and make sounds so that you relax, and some also like splashing sounds or so on, because apparently, I don't know, back in the day or still now, some people flush to so that others don't hear the noises they make when they're on the toilet. So they have this kind of functionality. They also have heated seats, and they have a bidet built in. That means there's like something coming out and then sprays up. And also this water can be heated and so on. So it's very comfortable and very, very popular here. And on the stark contrast is the Japanese style toilet, which is a squat toilet. So it's essentially a hole in the floor. And how long until it became comfortable? So actually, when I was here for the first time, I was like, no, that's weird. I don't do that. And then the second time I came, I was like, let's just do it. And that was it. So then I was comfortable, essentially. It was just a decision, not getting used to it, just deciding. When I learned a bit about Japan, I also learned that when they are in school, they are taught how to remember the shape of Japan by saying it looks like a seahorse. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Oh, I didn't know that. Now you're saying it. Yes, true. A year and 40 minutes, like how 2020 felt. Yeah, on the one hand, yes. But on the other hand, so many things happened. Thinking back. When you will build your house, what style will it be? Concrete and big windows or old Japanese style? So, no, yes. So the style we like, my wife and I. So there's one company here that we really like called Kobo Shinshu. I can share a link. Wait a second. It's the photo gallery, I think. Second. It's not complete. Why? Again. Yes. So this company, this kind of style is what we like. So they used it's mostly wood, and it's made from trees exclusively from the prefecture, from Nagano, and that's what we want essentially. And the way they build, like usually you have the living room and then it's open to the second floor and so on. We like that. They also have like a wooden stove, which I like a lot because that's what we used when I was a kid. I like this kind of heat, and so it feels really great to have the wood and so on. And we also want a washitsu, so one tatami room, not everything, but one for guests, for example, or for making nice looking videos. It's kind of another thing. And yeah, that's that. Do you love Minka? Well, so why not? I like my family, my father-in-law's house was a Minka, so I liked it. My wife didn't so much, so that was there. And yeah, I also asked her if she wants a kominka, so an old Japanese style house, like 100 years old or so. And no, she doesn't. I also suggested maybe you should get a minka, so a Japanese style house, which is like a little older, 40 years or so, and renovate that. But also that is kind of no, because I think if I'm not mistaken, then minka or old houses, kind of old houses, have you pay almost no taxes because the assumption I think is you have a house for 30 years or so, then you retire. So by the time you retire, you should not pay taxes. So as the house depreciates in value, your tax goes down, tax rate goes down. So then if you buy a minka, an old house, you don't pay this tax, even if you renovate, as long as you like keep the structure. So that's something that would be nice, but probably we'll have a new one, I guess, if we should buy a house and so on. Also, I'm not on a permanent visa at the moment, so that means not all banks would give me a mortgage loan, and it may be even more expensive. Down payment should be at least 20% in that case as well, which is okay. I think your How Large is Tokyo is one of the best videos about Japan. Over the years, I've watched it 5 or 6 times. Oh, thank you so much. I that's actually one of the few videos I really like that I did. And it was the first time I did this animation style. And it took, I don't know how long it took, but it was not continued work. And we went to Germany for 2 months over the time period I made it. And it took so long, like way longer than I thought. It's like 4.5 minutes, but it took really long because, of course, I had to learn all this animation stuff and so on by myself. So I shot it still when we were in Japan and then started editing, and it takes long. Continued in Germany in the evening, and so on. And then after like a month or so or longer, it was done. And thankfully then, so initially it got like 3,000 views, so it's not so spectacularly great. But then after some time, I don't know how, it kind of took off. I think it was posted on Reddit twice, on the videos subreddit or so. And then it gained a little bit more. And now, as you know, it's kind of 500,000 views or something. So one of my strongest videos, actually. Yes. Think. Do you celebrate Easter in Japan too? No. So I don't realize it's Easter until it's Easter. And I've never seen chocolate Easter bunnies or eggs or something, I think. Would be nice to do, maybe, if we had. So, I mean, I don't know how you celebrate Easter, but in German, it's usually you get candy, like chocolate eggs, candy, chocolate eggs, and so on, and hide them, and then the kids have to search. Yeah. And it would be fun, maybe. But then, of course, the kids would be hyperactive because of the sugar. I would go with the Japanese with the bricks that go together like Lego bricks, and with wooden front and back door, and doors inside paper with a paper floor. Just talking about it warms me inside. Yeah, the sliding doors, right, with the paper, the shoji. I also like that, and I would love to have that, at least in my office area. So, but also we need to. Yeah, maybe we get it. We are considering, should we really, because we have kids and it's just too inviting to like just poke holes into it. But then on the other hand, this is Japan, so you can just get this kind of paper in the home store. So why not do it? And then after they get scolded a couple of times when they poked holes, and then maybe after 5 years or so they don't do it anymore. Maybe. I also thought if we should buy purchase some land, I should build a dojo there. So I would like a house with the dojo, a training facility. But then if there is something that we need to go back, something happens in the family, or there's another catastrophe in Japan or so, then it would be harder to sell or rent to somebody. So that's why maybe it's not realistic. That's nice. I don't know. I don't know the context now. Important to remember that houses are not an investment like they are in the West. A Japan house usually loses its value after 25 to 30 years, but the land retains its value. Yes, kind of. In Nagano City, it's kind of stable in the last 10 years, little bit down for the land. Depends, of course, on the area. I think, was it Nagano City or Nagano Prefecture? I think city. And absolutely true about the houses, so it's essentially worthless. And also, when you go somewhere for rent, which was counterintuitive for me, if the house is new, it's most expensive, and then the older it gets, the cheaper it gets. Whereas, for example, in Germany, if you stayed in an apartment for, let's say, for example, my last apartment in Munich, which I got into in 2014, late 2014, was 800 euros a month for 55, 60 square meters. So, and if I would want to rent it now, it would probably be twice as much. So the earlier you are, the cheaper it is. In Japan, it's the other way around. Well, have you seen Tokyo Lama's channel? He purchased a beautiful Akita bank house north of Tokyo and renovated it. Yeah, in Ibaraki. I know. I have seen. Yeah. Even so, just when his channel started to explode, he was still under 10,000 subscribers. YouTube started recommending him. So I love his videos, and he's really he appears to be really like down to earth and doesn't put on any characters on. And renovating and stuff is always fascinating to me, at least, and to a lot of other people apparently as well. So it's a great channel. So if anybody hasn't watched it yet, Tokyo Lama, very interesting. And now they're moving in, and he said he would publish a lot of videos, but I guess priorities. For a foreign person who just moved to Japan for work, how hard is it to build a friend network here? Can I make friends to hang out by using English until I learn to communicate in Japanese? So, since you work here, probably you will have some kind of network already with your colleagues. So that's a plus. And since I imagine then it would be an English environment, probably you can also communicate in English. But I would try to get out of that as soon as you can. So the bad thing about having this English environment is that it's an English environment if you want to learn Japanese, which I assume. So, and of course you learn Japanese not by reading books, not by reading like textbooks, but by speaking Japanese, by being immersed and so on. Eventually, of course, textbooks may be helpful initially to get down the basics, but then you need to understand how it's used in real life. And for that, you need immersion into Japanese. And if your friend group is only English at that point, then it may be hard. Because then it's even harder to break into Japanese or break out of this friends group. So it's kind of a chicken egg thing right here. So can you make friends? Yes, definitely. And can you, especially around work initially, and can you just use English? Yes, also. However, for example, when my wife was still here and I would pick her up after work every night, and she still had to do something and so on, there was in a bigger store, like a department store. Next to that was a tea store, and the owner, older guy in his 60s, early 60s, also practiced kendo, another martial art. And since I was waiting for her, I talked to him, and he spoke almost no English, but also it worked, and also is kind of a friend, I would consider him. So when I went there last month, end of last month or so, it was great. Beginning this month. So you don't necessarily need to have English if there's something that, also my wife didn't know a lot of English when we got to know each other, and especially not German, and I didn't know any Japanese. So if it's right, then you will make it work somehow. And then also your Japanese develops really, really fast. Okay. He meant Akiha Bank House purchased for 27K USD. Yes. Yeah. I even saw that part. And then they had some issues with the loan or so because the borders were not clearly marked or so. But it seems like a great house, super large, a great garden and so on. Of course, it's not. It probably takes some time to get stuff from anywhere, but still, it seems nice. And this kind of like smaller community, then you're in there super fast, I imagine. And probably renovation. I think he said what they planned, but I think he also said a couple of times they went over budget. So I'm not sure. I'm sure they invested more into renovating than this 27K. Have you went to Disney in Tokyo, in Japan? I went to Tokyo Disneyland and also to Disney Sea. So Disneyland is kind of, I think, the non-exclusive attractions mostly, and Disney Sea is more exclusive and more targeted towards adults, like a little bit more wild and so on. And I was in 2015. I was in Disneyland, and this was the first time ever. And it was more fun than expected. So I didn't think it would be, but it was, good. It was a hot day. So I brought a hat, thankfully. Probably got sunburned. What I didn't like is there was a parade, and there was the Aladdin actor on the elephant. And my wife, not wife yet, and her sister just went crazy because he looked so good. I like, okay, guy, I'm here. But that's how they are. I'm like, woo, Aladdin. And Disney Sea, it was a rainy day. I also only went once to Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea. Disney Sea was a rainy day with my relatively young firstborn, like, how old? Less than a year. And so I took care of him when my wife was riding the attractions she wanted to go to and so on, and it was not so fun. But I guess now it would be more fun. And I've not been to USJ, Universal Studios, which may be more fun for me because of there's Harry Potter, and now there's a Super Mario area, Super Mario World, and things like that. Because I'm not super into Disney. What is the best old Japanese invention you have discovered? For me, living in Hokkaido, it's the kotatsu. Yeah, kotatsu is great. We don't have one here, so kotatsu is like a usually low table that has a blanket on its side, and then it's heated on the inside. And these days, thankfully, this heating is with electric stuff and not like a stove. And yeah, I liked kotatsu, and we don't have one. I asked my wife if we should get one because the heating bill really gets out of hand once you have a house like we have now. And she said the kotatsu make brings out the worst in people, because like you're under it, and then, for example, you eat something and you have the what's that, the dirt, the rubbish, the litter, and you don't want to get up, so you just throw and you miss, and you're like, later, like that, and you're just under there. The best old Japanese invention. Let me think. I don't know. Old. I mean, I really like tatami mats. I don't know if the rice straw mats. Yeah, I just like that. It's a good feeling, and not for any particular reason, I think, except for feels good. And yeah, I also like futons. So being able to take your bed and put it away if you need the space, that's really nice. Also, I don't like to sleep hard. I don't like to sleep soft, so futons are good, like close to the floor or no futon. So I like that. When did you start learning Japanese language and why? I learned as 2015. Very limited though. So like, let's see if it's something for me. Like hiragana, katakana, and very basic spoken Japanese and so on. Very slow pace, maybe 20 minutes a day or so. And it was okay. So it got me to a level where I could kind of do some kind of communication. And then after some, and that was already when I knew my wife, who was not my girlfriend back then, but we Skyped. So that's why. That's the why. And then when she came to Germany in 2015, I learned a little more, then a little less again. And then we moved to Japan. And then, of course, I had to, again, it has always been like this. Currently, I'm on a high again, but maybe it goes down again. So I'm not super consistent or so. And obviously the shows also. And I've never been to language school, but I had my company paid for one-on-one lessons, but not for a lot. So that also happened some years ago. Yes. I'm guessing he put the 75 to 100K US dollars in the remodel. Okay. I asked him if he would disclose his investment, and he said he would make a video on it soon. Oh, great. Yeah. But I mean, that's still super cheap. If you pay like 100, let's say 130K maximum, then for a house this size and what it gives you, hopefully if you stay there for the rest of your life, that's fantastic. What I personally would like to have actually is a house here and in Germany. Yeah. Are your children of school age? If yes, what's the cost of schooling? No, they're not. So the older one is kindergarten and the younger one is 1 year old. So no. And the cost. So when we lived in Yokohama, it was kind of more pricey, maybe $300 per month. And now it's like 30 or so, because it's more publicly supported or something, or I don't know, just not in Tokyo area. So it's that. Nothing like warming your legs while you eat. Yes. So I have a blanket here, for example, because it's still a little cold at night, and now I eat a banana. Oh, good question. About what old things are great from Japan. Can we count old video games? Yeah, excellent question. I think my favorite back when I was young was Mario World 2, or whatever it was called. I didn't like Super Mario Brothers. Was it what it's called? Kind of one of the first ones. But then when you got a little bit of more than just the flower thing where you can shoot balls, but then the head when you can fly and things like that, that's what I liked. Yes. And Street Fighter 2. Even though I never had it, but a friend of mine had it. And there I discovered it already kind of late, and he beat me every single time. So one time I won a round, but I think he let me. Still, I like because I like this guy also a lot. Good memory, and he's like an adult friend, so he's like 20 years old or so. You should have a video that talks about what's rude and what's not, like sneezing in public is rude, or leaving your chopsticks upright in your food dish instead food dish instead of on the rest as a sign of disrespect. Yes, I will do that. I did a video like what not to do in Japan or whatever it's called a while back, but I really focused on showing everything nobody else does. So these classics like chopstick, how to use chopsticks, and other like don't talk on the train on your phone and so on. That's not in there, but I will make that. I actually started last year, but I never finished because there's one part where I have to go to a restaurant, and back then, even now, it's not really responsible to go to a restaurant if you can avoid it, I feel, especially because we're taking off your mask and so I haven't finished it. I started, but maybe since it's been a while, I will redo it or so. Depending, I have to compare my current look, how much I aged, and so on. And if I actually still like the style I did it in. I think I liked it. If you were to make a major investment into your video business, what would you prioritize? It's a good question. So I may buy a new camera. I might buy a new camera. So this is, as you can see, looks fairly good, right? It's actually compared to my first camera, which is, where is it? This one here. This one is outstanding. However, the big issue is the autofocus, which is essentially non-existent, which limits me, of course. So I can, for example, not put the camera here and then walk towards it, because I will just be out of focus most of the time. Or except I do it like now, where everything is in focus. That's also better everything than nothing. So a camera like the A7S III, which is also has a kind of good in-body image stabilization, ideally full frame, so good low light capability, which this one also doesn't have so great, but it's fine. And fantastic autofocus. That would be a good investment. Another one would be a drone, because I'm in this area now, and in many areas, even of the city, it's allowed to fly a drone, because it's not densely populated, and of course the mountains and so on are fantastic. So it's almost a must-have. So, and since drones are cheaper than this camera, because if you need a camera, if you buy the camera, you need the lens, and then you need the faster memory cards, and then you need maybe a little bit of accessories, batteries, and so on. And that's like $7,000 or so we're talking about. So, and the drone is like, right now, 600. And so that would be something when it comes to gear. But actually, so the major investment would be into me, because right now I can't do a lot because of time. So if I had some amount of money available that could buy me time, that would be the investment, so that I can go more to places and, show things and people. And that's definitely the most expensive thing, is the time. And if I had that, and kind of could maintain my family's lifestyle, that would be what I invest in. And then maybe after some time, once it's established more and so on, then I could justify by purchasing another camera and so on. I think it's disrespectful because you only leave your chopsticks upright your dish when you're at the funeral. Yes, so it's yeah. I haven't seen it. I mean, there's also the rounded rice thing. I think only on the funeral when it's like perfectly round and so on. And then the incense is also. I think that's what it's reminds people of. So the incense sticking into the, what's that, sand or so at the funeral, and then the same thing when you pass something from chopsticks to chopstick and so on. because when somebody gets, people get burned in Japan, so they get burned, and then there's the remainders, bones. They're very light, so you can pick them up with your chopsticks, and then you pass them from chopstick to chopstick, and then into the urn, I think it's. And this reminds them people, of course, when you eat, you don't want to be reminded of your like granddad or something who passed at his funeral or so. Yeah. Just understanding proper chopstick etiquette is a long video unto itself. There are surprisingly many rules to using these two small sticks. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, observing is king. So I've never seen this to anybody. But for example, I've seen people point it to others or so. So then you can assume maybe it's not that critical, even though it's not particularly fine. Yeah, and people don't lick them and things like that. So the two things that I have heard Japanese people correct, either kids or foreigners, is licking chopsticks and passing from chopstick to chopstick. And then things like you don't use them like a fork or so on. I've seen Japanese people do that. So there's always kind of, yeah, you shouldn't, but it's not critical. So probably would be like, you should have a grade like can ignore, would be nice to have, and must do rules. Never thought two sticks would have so many rules, but two sticks with a chain connecting them together, nunchucks, would have many rules. Yeah, nunchucks especially get pretty painful, I guess, if you don't handle them according to physics rules or laws, I guess. What lenses do you currently own? If you have invested in MFT glass, you should look at the Panasonic DCBGH1. I have. So the H1, yes. So, well, no. So this is not a full frame camera. It's a micro four thirds. So it's micro four thirds, obviously. And then I have an adapter for Canon glass. What's that? EF mount or so. I don't know. And this is currently a Canon lens. And now let me take out my lenses. Wait a second. So these are the lenses I own. One is this one here. It's probably my favorite looking one. The Sigma 60mm f1.4 with an ND filter. Looks fantastic. In the last live stream I used it. And f1.4 means everything, you can get like a blurry background, still 60mm on the sensor. Means like it's a 32 full frame equivalent, which is very comfortable for people. Let me put it here. Then another one is Panasonic 12 to 60. What's that? f3.5 to 5.6. And it's very flexible, of course. So if I'm outside or so, this maybe do the job, because it allows me to keep it on there and not change the lens a lot. It's a little bit too close for vlogging style. So if I want to hold it like this, it's kind of possible, but not comfortable and not super great. Yeah, and it's like a kind of cheap lens. I think new maybe $400 or so in Japan, but I bought it used for $200. This was also the first exclusive lens I bought for this camera. Then the third one is this one here. That's a Canon 50mm f1.8. But since I have a speed booster here, it becomes actually a f1.3. Yeah, 50mm on a 2x crop, that's 100. But there's a speed booster, then it becomes a 71. So that's very comfortable for also faces or so on, but you have to be really far away. So if I would put this here, you'd probably see me this close. But again, if you want something where you really, really have a lot of bokeh, so blurry background and so on, this is fantastic. And then the last one is the one I have here, which is, I forgot the name of the brand, 11 to 20mm f2.0. So this one, so this is my lungs, this is my arm here. So if I would hold the camera here and I could even go even wider, this would be You can even see my monitor now. This would be for vlogging, perfect. And you can also see the chaos on. I just pushed to the side here. So let's do this again. But however, this lens is a little heavy, so it's on the bigger side for Micro Four Thirds. How old were you when you started learning English? I was 10, and still. So usually people say if you learn English or so a language before you're 12, you may be able to get on a native level. However, I was not in England or in an English-speaking country, so yeah, and that's where we are. Also, my teacher was not native English; he was German. Can you imagine to live with your family in another country? I don't mean you're both home countries. No. Yes, maybe. So there's some countries. I mean, for some I think so when I was younger, I always felt like if I'm older, I will live in Italy. And my best friend said, no, you shouldn't go away. That's too far. And here we are. Interestingly, so yesterday I talked to my dad and I asked him, like, why did you go away from here? So his family was from northern Germany, and he went away. He studied in Italy, and then he established himself with my mom in the south of Germany. So I asked him why, and so on. And he said, in our family, it's always been like that. Like, because his dad, he worked in Pakistan in the 50s. So he was like, and like in the 50s, it's not like now you can Skype, right? You have to write a letter. You can't even talk phone. And Pakistan back then, not really like the most touristy area. And then after that, he went to Chile and Mexico and so on. So he had his fair share of being away. And then my dad also, like, not so far, but he lived in Southern America when he was born, and then in Italy, and then also went to areas like around the world, and now he's in southern Germany and not there in the north. So, and also my grandfather, he also lived in Italy and so on. So kind of always happens. And he says also my younger siblings, which are 20 and 16, the 20-year-old also is getting the drive to go out and so on. Now it's hard, of course, because of Corona, but she also wants to get away. So it's kind of tradition, I think, or in the blood, I don't know. But for other countries, so I always loved Italy because big parts of my family, the others, were like moved there. So I always had a great connection with that because I love my family. And so I imagined that for the future. And I don't know, maybe if we would go Fijis or somewhere, we'd say, yeah, we could live here. Maybe not, who knows? But yeah, since family is important to both of us, it's either here or there currently, at least. But who knows what happens then with when my siblings get out of the house, where they will end up, and with my kids, with our kids. So let's see. I'm not sure of how any of you guys or girls remember the names of those. You're talking about camera stuff? Yeah, you get into it. You learned well English. Okay, thank you. If you build a house, will your wife's family move in per Japanese tradition? Absolutely not. At least that's not the plan. I mean, eventually, if there's like a need for it, then. But I mean, wife's family. So the father passed away already. So there's only my mother-in-law left, and yeah. So far, no. Your family history sounds really interesting. Thank you, Susie Hexeflo Phipps Odin. Yeah, family. Yeah, it is interesting. If you moved back to Europe, how would you handle the lack of Japanese quality ingredients and foodstuffs? So in Munich, there's one store called Mikado, which is run by Japanese for Japanese, essentially. And they have some Japanese stuff. It's of course more pricey, just as it's more pricey to get European stuff here, cheese or something. So there's kind of a way, depending on where you live. But other than that, especially like sushi or something, that's gonna be hard. More for my wife than I. I'm seeing I'm running out of battery. So that means essentially very soon this stream will end, ladies and gentlemen. So really sorry for that. Camera is blinking. So I would say, let me try to answer the last question, and then probably it switches off. In one of your videos, you ate some sushi in a restaurant and the portions were small. There were a lot of empty plates taken on your table. Is that something cultural? Yeah, so in the running sushi, the kaiten, the conveyor belt sushi, you get like one plate at a time, usually two pieces on it, and then either you stack them up or you throw them into a thing.